Om Mokyantimidandasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurun militam jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jodhapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahakana Raghunathan Bitham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahakana Lalita Sri Vishakanbitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namostete Tapta Kanchana Godangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktabinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. At this precious moment, the only thing I can think of saying is Hare Krishna. I am so grateful to be with you. Thank you, Srivas Pandit Prabhu Malini Devi, for opening your home and this wonderful landscaped paradise of a yard for all of us to be. It's paradise because there are so many desire tree devotees filling your garden. I was thinking of asking everyone what they're doing, how they're doing, and how I can serve you, but so many people have come that we'll be late for the program tomorrow if we try to. It's wonderful, wonderful. Many of you I have not seen in several years. Each day that we have an opportunity to remember Krishna, to serve Krishna, to try to please Krishna, to be among devotees of Krishna, is a treasure beyond everything else in this world. It is the nature of life and the human mind to see what is valuable as ordinary and to see what is ordinary as valuable. Material life and all acquisitions that we can achieve in life, wealth, fame, strength, power, sense gratification in all of its varieties. We consider these things very valuable. And we dedicate so many of our very limited and precious moments in pursuit of these things. But actually all of it, whether it's being a king or a queen, whether it's getting 108 PhDs, whether it's being Mr. Universe or Miss Universe, all of these things are actually very ordinary. They come and they go. And they have really no connection to the soul. Bhagavad Gita tells Najayatam that we are not this body, we are the soul. And the soul is eternal. The soul is part of Krishna. When we understand the nature of our spiritual identity, then we see that what is truly valuable is that which is spiritual. The great sages, rishis, the Paramahamsa yogis, the Vaishnav acharyas, their example, their teachings, their life is guiding us with the compass of true knowledge. What is really valuable? Any moment that we can remember Krishna, that we can please Krishna. Any opportunity to deepen our surrender and our devotion and our love for Krishna. That has infinite value. And all the things that people are struggling for are really ordinary. Krishna tells in Gita that what is the night for a conditioned soul is the time of awakening for a devotee. And what is the time of awakening for the materialistic oriented person is sleeping time. It is night for a devotee. We are alert for opportunities to become detached from those things that our ego clings to, so that we can become deeply attached to the all-attractive, supreme, merciful, ultimately sweet, loving personality of Godhead. Any opportunity to chant Krishna's names with feeling, with sincerity, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, to come before the deities, Sri Radha, Sri Krishna, incarnating in this world to stand right in front of our eyes, just to attract our hearts. What could be more valuable than that? But we take it ordinary. In pursuit of things that lead us to death. Srila Prabhupada explains on behalf of Krishna, there's no such thing as death. It's based on misconception. Nothing and no one dies. It's change. Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yavaram chara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyate. The embodied soul is witnessing change at every moment. Because we're not so tuned in to the moment, we don't see how we're actually changing at every second. We're aware of it as time passes. But it's not that you go from a seed in the mother to a newborn child. It takes 9 months. It's not that you go from a baby to an American teenager. You notice the difference. The parents know the difference. But it's happening so fast and so constantly. But we only have awareness at certain stages. But the reality, everything is always changing. From childhood to youth to old age. So many changes. And what is death? It's just another change. We're changing bodies in this body, and then we change that body to another body. I was recently listening to a recording of Srila Prabhupada. He said something that I've heard time and again since I've come in contact with the Krishna consciousness movement, which was about 52 years ago. But sometimes when you hear the same thing, it sounds so much more. May I tell you? Srila Prabhupada said, he was speaking to a scholar. It was in England. And Srila Prabhupada said, a Vaishnava devotee does not strive for things of this world. A devotee at every moment is preparing for the next life. Now, if we hear this in a shallow way, we may think, what about this life? There's so much talk about the next life, but what about this life? And the misconception is if we're thinking about preparing for the next life, we will be irresponsible, negligent about the world today. Why should we care about ecology, environment? Why should we care about our health? Why should we care about anything that's happening to anyone if we're thinking about our next life? Does that make sense? You're supposed to say no, actually. That's actually the problem. We think it makes sense. But if we're actually understanding what it means to prepare for our next life, when do we have the opportunity to prepare for the next life? Only in this life. And if we understand that we're responsible for everything we do in this life, every word, every thought, every action is going to determine our next life. So if we're preparing for our next life, we will be the most aware, conscious, sensitive people in this life. Because we take responsibility for everything. Karmically, we understand we're responsible. And anything we do now is going to come back to us in our next life. And from a spiritual perspective, it is in this life that we have the chance to liberate our souls, to come closer to Krishna. Cheto Dharapana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. When we take shelter of Krishna's names, in this life, we're preparing for our next life. Every act of devotional service, Neha Bikaramanatosi, Krishna tells, he never forgets anything we do. Therefore, any act of devotional service can never be lost. Most people in this area are software engineers, but some places I go, most people are investors. So there's different analogies according to the group of people we're speaking to. But I'm going to speak from an investment perspective, because you're probably really bored with software engineering examples. What you invest in is what's going to make you a success or a failure. So every moment is so precious. Durlabha manava janma lobhya samsare. Human life is so precious. And the most precious things in human life is the opportunity to associate and to follow in the footsteps of devotees. And every moment is when we have that opportunity. So how precious is a moment? There's a beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that the greatest loss is to waste a moment. A moment to prepare for the next life. A moment to come closer to Krishna. That means purifying our hearts. Yesterday, I said in front of the deities that I would speak more about Lord Balaram. Today you are saving my life from speaking untruly in front of the deities. But from the perception of purification. We were speaking how Balaram is the origin of Guru Tattva. He is the original servant of Krishna. He is Krishna, who serves Krishna. Srila Prabhupada has written the only difference between Krishna and Balaram is Krishna is bluish like a monsoon rain cloud, and Balaram is white like a spring cloud. So Balaram is Krishna. But Krishna expands himself as the most loving, all-pervading servant. What is Balaram's eternal enthusiasm to serve? It's unfathomable. When we say original and expansion in the spiritual world, that's not chronological. It's not that once there was and then there was. It's there always is. There's not even a was or a will be. There's not even an is, because it's beyond time. Therefore, our human mind and our human intelligence, which is so totally programmed with everything being influenced by time, it's very difficult to grasp it. And certain things that are impossible to really sincerely and honestly grasp are actually given to us when we have faith. Faith in the words of the Supreme Lord and the Acharyas is actually a deeper and higher science than just trying to know things. Because it takes us beyond the limitations of our endlessly conditioned mind and senses. So Balaram is first expansion of Krishna. But Balaram's forever existing, and Krishna is forever existing, without past, present, and future. So the idea of expansion in this sense in the spiritual world it's actually all based on one thing. Everything in the spiritual world is based on bhava, or love. It's based on various qualities of love. Balaram expands himself, and this also is not chronological. Balaram expands himself as the entire spiritual world, forever. Just to create a wonderful playground for Krishna and all the devotees. And Balaram becomes Krishna's clothes. He actually expands himself to be Krishna's clothes, Krishna's ornaments, Krishna's shoes, his slippers, his bed, his chairs. Just everywhere, serving, serving, serving. And in the spiritual world, he serves in every rasa, or every type of loving relationship. As all of Krishna's jewels, clothes, furniture, and abode, he's serving in Chantaras. He's always trying to please Krishna in Dasyaras. He's a gopa, a cowherd boy who plays with Krishna, wrestles with Krishna, does everything with Krishna in Sakyaras. He's the best friend of Krishna. But because he's his older brother, he's 8 days older. But if time does not exist in the spiritual world, how could you be 8 days over? It's a bhava. In this world, he's 8 days older. We'll describe that, hopefully, if I don't get distracted. As the elder brother, he's serving Krishna at every moment eternally in Vatsalya ras, in parental affection, protective, worried about Krishna. And in Conjugal Ras, Madhurya Lila, to honor and respect the relation of Radha Govinda, Radha Madan Mohan, Balaram is never present directly in their confidential pastimes because he's senior, and therefore they will feel a certain type of respect for him. So Balaram expands himself as Radharani's little sister. He's Krishna's older brother, and he's Radharani's younger sister. How brilliant is Balaram? There's no limitations to how he serves. He becomes Ananga Manjari. Sri Radharani's family is Brishabhanu Maharaj, Kirtida Rani, Sri Dama, Krishna's very, very dear friend, Sri Radharani, and the little sister Ananga Manjari. And she's always there at Radharani's side to assist her in her serving Krishna. She's an expansion. She's a Shakti of Balaram. That's Goloka. We read about Vishnu. Who does Vishnu lay on? Loudly, please. You have to do louder because your masks are on. Yes. You were saying his name, but Ananta Shesha, he has so many mouths, and he's speaking the glories of Krishna for all of eternity, and he never speaks the same glory twice. Is that imaginable? When we give classes, how many times do we repeat the same? But every time we repeat, it's new. Because Bhagavad Gita is Krishna. It's not different than Krishna. And Krishna's Navayovana. He's ever new. So every time we hear the Bhagavad Gita, and every time we speak from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, Sri Ishopanishad, any of these Vedic literatures, although we're repeating the same thing, it's never the same thing. Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. It's important to understand that achintya part. It's very inconceivable. But Krishna's every new, therefore Krishna in the form of the sound vibration of his holy names, his words, his pastimes is actually ever new. And to the degree we're really tuned in to Krishna, we experience that. But here is Ananta Shesha, forever, with 1,000 mouths, he's glorifying Krishna. He's describing the pastimes, the qualities of Krishna. He never repeats the same thing. And he's eternally enthusiastic. And when Lord Narayan or Vishnu comes, Ananta Shesha becomes his bed, and Krishna lays. I'm sorry if I'm getting distracted, but I really like when I do. I hope you can tolerate me. How many of you in Braj Bhumi have been to the temple Sheshashayi? Please raise your hands if you have been to Sheshashayi. Keep your hands up. Anyway, this place is special to us because, of course, every place is special. But when Srila Prabhupada came to meet his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, during the Braj Mandala Parikrama, Srila Prabhupada came when his Guru Maharaj was speaking in Koshi. And there was many hundreds of people on the parikrama. It was announced that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would be speaking that evening for whoever stayed back, but the whole parikram was going to the Sheshashayi temple. And 99% of everybody in the parikrama, perhaps, they all went to Sheshashayi temple. But Srila Prabhupada told us that he was thinking, what will I see Sheshashayi? I want to hear the words of my Guru Maharaj. So Srila Prabhupada stayed back. And only a few of the very, very senior godbrothers of Srila Prabhupada stayed back. Just a small group. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur spoke for many hours. And Srila Prabhupada, in his very limitless humility, he said, my Guru Maharaj was speaking very high words. I couldn't understand everything, but I stayed and listened, just hearing the vibration. And a few months later, there was a Kumbh Mela in Allahabad, where Srila Prabhupada was living. And at the Gaudiya Math, the leader at that time recommended Srila Prabhupada to get initiated. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, oh yes, he listens very carefully. He does not go away. I will initiate him. And he gave him first and second initiation. So, I'm just trying to repeat some of Srila Prabhupada's words. And today, you get to stay here and here, and at the same time, together we'll go to Sheshashayi Vishnu Temple. Through sound vibration. So one day, Krishna was with Sri Radharani and gopis, and they were hearing about Vishnu and how he lies on Ananta Shesha. And the gopis said to Krishna that we would you sometimes you say that you're Vishnu. We want to see you laying on Ananta Shesha. So Krishna was very happy. He made a little hole and created what is called a Kshir Sagar. It's like a really nice little lake. And then it had lotus flowers and everything. And suddenly, from the water of the lake, Anantadev, Shesha, came out in the form of this big, beautiful, white-colored, divine serpent. Now, when we read about this Shesha in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he is infinitely more beautiful than anything in all of the material creation. So we may not think snakes to be very beautiful, but Anantadev is supremely beautiful, all attractive. And he just comes out of the water. And then Krishna goes up to him and lays, and he becomes Vishnu. And the gopis are watching, and they're very happy. They're just enjoying like anything. Krishna has become Vishnu, and he's laying on Ananta Shesha, a big snake in this water right here in Vrindavan. And Radharani, in her service mood, she wanted to be part of the Leela. So she went into the lake and began to massage Vishnu's feet. But he wasn't actually Vishnu, he was Krishna. So where that pastime takes place, Krishna's great-grandson, Vajranabha, he actually established that pond. He named the whole village after that pastime, and he installed the deity of Sheshashayi Vishnu. And he's still there. And we were just there through sound vibration. You know, when Srivas Pandit Prabhu claps, I can feel demigod flowers coming on us. So this is Balaram. He becomes Ananta Shesha for Vishnu. When the Lord appeared as Lord Ram, who did Balaram appear as? Very loudly, please. Lakshman. Thank you. Lakshman. He was in every way never considered a single thought in his entire life except serving Ram, making Ram happy. From their earliest childhood, Lakshman was always there assisting Ram. When Ram went to the forest with Vishwamitra Muni, Lakshman came with him. He would never leave Ram's side. When Lord Sri Ramchandra was exiled to the forest for 14 years, Lakshman said, I am coming with you. And he did. And Sita insisted on coming. Lakshman. It is described, he never slept. Day and night, he was always serving and protecting Sita and Ram. Wherever they would go, Lakshman would make a little house for Sita and Ram out of, bamboo or wood or leaves or flowers or vines, creepers. And they would go and he would make little beds for them in the forest. And as they were inside, he would stay outside and guard. He never stopped serving. That is Lakshman, the personification of total, faithful, loyal, dedicated life of pleasing Ram and the devotees of Ram. But Ram gave him the most heartbreaking services. After that battle of Sri Lanka, Ram told Lakshman, make a funeral pyre. Let us test Sita. Make a fire. And Sita walked right into the fire. And it's a long story, but it's a beautiful story. But I'm not going to tell it. Agni Dev came out to certify that Sita is completely pure. In fact, the fire did not burn her, it just made her more effulgent. And the whole story of Tirupati is based on this pastime, actually. It's very connected. So Lakshman did many things. And it is described that when Ram told Lakshman to bring Sita to Valmiki's ashram near Chitrakoot, Lakshman was thinking, I want to serve Ram forever, but in any future incarnation, I'm going to be his older brother. Then I don't have to do what he says. And every other incarnation after Ram, he's always the older brother. He became Balaram, and in Mahaprabhu's Leela, he became Nityananda Prabhu. But Balaram and Nityananda Prabhu, their only wish, their only desire, their everything was simply the service of Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya or Lord Sri Krishna. When Lord Sri Balaram appeared in Krishna's incarnation, he prepared the way for Krishna's pastimes. We read in Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Harivamsa describes in greater detail, that Devaki and Vasudeva had 6 children in the prison house of Kamsa that Kamsa killed. As soon as they were born, he slaughtered them. These 6 children represent the sons of Maricha, or actually the children of the material mind. The anarthas of the mind are lust, anger, greed, arrogance, envy, and illusion. Chetudarapanumarjanam. Unless these enemies of the mind, manifestations, are removed, then we can't really appreciate Krishna within our hearts. In Jagannath Puri, the Gundicha Marjanam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught, by the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, we're cleansing our minds and our hearts, because actually the mind is in the heart. The brain is just kind of like the hardware, but the software of the mind is actually in the heart. So cleaning the mind is cleaning the heart. And Lord Chaitanya said, we must clean this Gundicha temple with every possible resource. He personally, with his closest associates, with 100 brooms and hundreds of pots, they were cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada describes, this represents that we can't really appreciate the Lord in our heart unless we make our heart a completely clean and pure place for Him to sit. This is the path of bhakti. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that these 6 sons of the mind of Maricha, they represent these anarthas. The womb of Devaki represents bhakti. And Kamsa represents a healthy fear of material existence. Because Kamsa was so terribly violent and cruel. Devaki was constantly, to the core of her heart, taking shelter of God. So when we have a healthy fear of material existence, we take shelter of Krishna. What's apparently negative is actually the doorway to the ultimate positive. And when we take shelter, and we don't recklessly become distracted by material life, then the 6 enemies, by the grace of Krishna, are removed. That's liberation. But that's not enough. Being liberated is not enough to see Krishna. So after all the 6 enemies were slain, then Balaram entered into the womb of Devaki to prepare the womb for Krishna's arrival. Similar to Lord Chaitanya cleansing Gundicha temple for Lord Jagannath's arrival. Balaram infused Devaki's womb with the completely purifying ecstasy of his love for Krishna. And he remained there for several months, just purifying the womb. And along with Devaki's love and her surrender, it was just the perfect arrangement for Krishna to come and take shelter. Simultaneously, Balaram also appeared in the womb of Rohini. Rohini was another wife of Vasudeva, but she wasn't in jail like Devaki. So Vasudeva wanted Rohini to be protected. And who was Vasudeva's very, very, very best friend and brother in life? Very loud, please. You already know the story. But it's ever new, so be patient, please. Vasudeva sent Rohini, his very beloved wife, to Gokula to be entrusted in the care of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai. When Rohini arrived, she crossed the Yamuna from Mathura. She did it quite secretly, and then she came to Gokul. Jiva Goswami describes in Gopal Champu that when Rohini and Yashoda came together at that moment, it was like the Yamuna and Ganga coming together at Prayag. Yashoda and Rohini were the very deepest, best of friends. At that time, Rohini was 3 months carrying the child within her womb. When she was 7 months pregnant, she had a dream. Srila Prabhupada describes as he cites the Hari Bamsa. Do you remember what happened in her dream? She had a miscarriage. For a loving mother, that's devastating to the heart. It was so heartbreaking that she woke up. And when she was fully awake, she noticed that she actually did have a miscarriage. There was no child anymore. Sounds kind of like the bumblebees in Vrindavan. We could think of it like that. It's very pleased. If we think of it as an airplane or a helicopter, it's very annoying. But we think of it as a nectar-seeking bumblebee. Oh, how nice. It transforms from a helicopter to a heavenly copter. I'm sorry. But when you're 71 years old, you have to think of ways to cope with this material world. She had a miscarriage. Her heart was broken. She was devastated. She heard the voice of Yogamaya. Yogamaya said, "Be happy. I am replacing the child of Devaki into your womb. And because he is going to be connecting the two families, his name will be Shankarshan." Krishna had instructed, we read in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yogamaya to transfer Balaram from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. And in the spiritual world, Rohini is Balaram's original mother. Rohini experienced Balaram come into her womb. She was 7 months pregnant then. Now it's interesting because it was around that time that Krishna entered Vasudeva and Devaki's womb, but that story is saved for Janmashtami. But do you know how long Balaram stayed in Rohini's womb? That's a little too long. 14 months. Why did he stay in Rohini's womb for 14 months before yesterday? Yesterday was Balaram Jayanti. Balaram, how many of you saw the full moon last night? So it's Balaram Purnima. It's the only moon like that of the year. It's the only Balaram Purnima. It's very precious, very special. Because he wanted to play with Krishna almost the same age. So actually Balaram is only 8 days older than Krishna. So he's old enough to be his older brother, but he's the same age enough so that they could just play as equals forever. Balaram appeared on the Purnima of the month of Shravan, and Jiva Goswami describes when he appeared, his complexion was just like the beautiful full moon high in the sky. And he illuminated all directions like that moon. Balaramji, supremely beautiful, all attractive, absolutely charming. And all of Braj Bhumi was so happy that Rohini gave birth to this beautiful little boy. Of course, Yashoda Mai, she had Krishna in her womb, which is Janmashtami story. When Balaram was born, Rohini brought little infant Balaram to Rohini. And she held Balaramji on her lap. Now this is such a special part of the pastime. When Yashoda embraced Balaram, Balaram was right cuddling with all of his heart and soul because he was so close to Krishna. Krishna's about to be born inside of Yashoda, and Balaram's right outside being pressed against Yashoda's body, and he's feeling closeness to Krishna for the first time in their incarnation. He was so happy that the entire Vrindavan, every Brijavasi, every tree, every insect, every animal, every bird, everyone was filled with bliss because they were feeling Balaram's happiness of being so close in contact with Krishna. But at the same time feeling separation. Krishna, get born so we can play. And 8 days later, from today, 7 days, Krishna appeared. In this way, as the original guru, Balaram in every way was preparing the way for Krishna. And in a similar way, all of the acharyas of our parampara, all of the saints, they are helping the Guru Tattva to prepare for Krishna to take birth in our hearts. Through their words, through their instructions, through their example, through their blessings, through their grace. And in the story of Srimad Bhagavatam, clearing the way is not always the way we like it to be. Because that's the nature of this world. Lord Ramchandra appeared because the saints, the sages, Mother Bhumi, Mother Earth were crying that Ravana and all of Ravana's asuras were causing so many difficulties. Bhumi Devi, as well as the Devatas and the Rishis, they all prayed to Krishna to appear because Kamsa, Jarasandha, and all these people were causing so many difficulties. And of course, we have our most worshipable Prahlad. Not everything was pleasant. But every situation that came, Prahlad turned to Krishna with the character of a Vaishnav. So we're given all the tools in the form of instructions, teachings, knowledge, service. Shravana Kirtana Smarana Bandhana Pada Sevana Dashiri Pujana Sakijana Atma Nivedana. These 9 processes of devotional service are ways for us to tune in and connect with Krishna and become purified. Our gurus are giving us this gift, this direction, this blessing. Devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, what can we do to repay you? Srila Prabhupada gave us all the same answer. Wholeheartedly receive what I've given you by following, and share it with others as I am sharing with you. It's so simple, but not so easy. But if it was easy, we probably wouldn't take it so seriously. Such a blessing. Balaram is all merciful, supremely strong. We were discussing a little yesterday. Dhenukasura, Pralambasura, later on Vivida, Balvala, Romaharshan, the entire Kuru dynasty. He could defeat everyone and anyone to protect Dharma. And when he appeared as Lord Nityananda, Balaram exhibited a power beyond what he had revealed in any other incarnation. All of this strength, all of this power, all of this knowledge, everything. Ananta Shesha He's not only speaking the glories of Krishna through his mouths forever, but he's holding up all the universes. That's strong. Yet, as Lord Nityananda, with all that strength and power, he's more humble than a blade of grass. He's tolerant, he's forgiving, he's parama karuna, so merciful. Lord Brahma and Balaram are being ordered by Lord Chaitanya, go to each house, each marketplace, each shop, each bathing ghat, and give the simple message to always chant the names of Krishna, to worship Krishna, to make Krishna the treasure of your life and soul. Krishna is he's our supreme, eternal, original father and mother and friend. Nityananda Prabhu went house to house with Haridas, pleading and begging, even from the most fallen as well as the most pious. They did not differentiate. And when people would insult them or try to harm them, they got on their hands and knees and begged with even more humility. When Madhai smashed the pot on Nityananda Balaram's head, he was bleeding. What would Balaram do? Balaram folded his palms with tears in his eyes and said, I forgive you. Please take the name of Krishna. That's all I ask you. And when Lord Chaitanya came to punish Madhai, Nityananda Balaram prayed that if I have ever done anything that pleased you, let all those credits go to forgiving Madhai and giving him love of God. Yes, as Nrsingadev, as Varahadev, as Ramchandra, as Krishna, we eliminated asuras. But in this age of Kali, that's not why we came. We came to give these asuras love for you through the chanting of the holy names. Seeing the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu and simultaneous the wrath of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Madhai's heart changed. And he surrendered. And Lord Chaitanya told Madhai that you should fall at the feet of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. If he forgives you, I will accept you. If you seek shelter of him, I will accept you. And Nityananda Prabhu offered, after Madhai fell at the feet of Nityananda Prabhu and begged forgiveness and begged for mercy, Nityananda Prabhu just offered him to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya accepted him. In the inner circle of his loving associates, Jagai Madhai. How many of you have been to Katwa? How many have been to Madhai's Samadhi? It's a place, I thought all Vaishnavas go there, but I guess some Vaishnavas. It's a very important place. 500 years after Madhai's life, still millions of devotees go there every year to pray for Madhai's mercy and blessings. That's the power of Lord Nityananda's mercy. That is the blessing that Srila Prabhupada carried in his heart around the world 12 times, and to each and every one of us. And considering the value of that blessing, everything else in this world is really quite ordinary. Puna punaschara vatachara vananam. Chewing the chewed. We've already chewed it. We're still chewing it. Everyone's chewing it. But it's chewed. Because we don't know what else to chew. Param dristva nivartate. When we're immersed in material existence, we become so completely affected by temptations and fears and all of these things. For when we experience a higher taste of Krishna, we actually see things as it really is. Actually, everything in this world is priceless if we see that it's here for the pleasure, the glory, and the service of the all-attractive Lord. It's not that we become callous to material existence. We see the consciousness of trying to enjoy material existence as ordinary. But we see the same things and the same people when we see it in reference to an opportunity to offer loving service to Krishna. Then we see everything with infinite value. That's the gift that we have been entrusted with. But our association, our sadhana, and our honest and earnest efforts to follow is what will please Krishna in such a way, the Paramatma in our hearts, that he gives us the awareness of the value, the infinite beauty of devotional service or bhakti. Srivas Pandit Prabhu, what was I supposed to speak about tonight?
Whatever he spoke.
Thank you. I must confess, the reason I asked Srivas Pandit, because I knew he would say that. I thank each and every one of you for your patience, and I'm so grateful to be here. And we have Vaisheshika Prabhu and Nirakula Devi, who are Shiksha gurus, and loving friends, guides, mother, father of the community here at ISV, and I'm so grateful to them for, actually I'm just here to try to assist them in their service to all of you. I'm forever indebted and grateful for how they're inspiring, protecting, and blessing all of you. And we have Shankarananda Prabhu and Govinda Priya Devi from Sacramento. And I believe many devotees are here. They're so much giving their lives to give all of you the gift of Krishna consciousness. I thank you. So proud of both of you. Years ago, we used to sit on the little straw mat in my cow dung wall rooms in Radha Gopinath Temple. And now here you are in California, spreading Lord Chaitanya's movement in such a glorious way. Thank you. And to each and every one of you, I really wish I had the time and the appropriate empowerment to speak about each of you as if I had 1,000 mouths. I'm so grateful. I was just meditating today on that famous, beloved lecture Srila Prabhupada gave in Los Angeles on the occasion of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, his disappearance ceremony. Srila Prabhupada described so many of the events in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's life and his own relationship over the years. And he concluded, he was saying, who could have ever known that we would all be together like this? And Srila Prabhupada, he said, I am very old and I could die at any moment. But you are all representatives of my Guru Maharaj, helping me to carry out his instruction to spread this movement. And then Srila Prabhupada, you can hear very clearly, he began to cry. And he said, thank you very much. He's speaking to all the devotees. Srila Prabhupada is crying in his appreciation and his love for all the devotees who are trying to help. With all our faults, with all our shortcomings. In those days, devotees had faults and shortcomings too. But Prabhupada is crying with love and gratitude because we're trying to help him. this is so much the foundation of the culture of Prabhupada's movement. Lord Chaitanya would praise his devotees sometimes as if he had 5 mouths. For Vasudev Datta, who wanted to take the sins of everyone in the universe so that everyone else could have love for Krishna, Lord Chaitanya praised him as if he had thousands of mouths. This is important, to show our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada, to Krishna, to understand how Srila Prabhupada loves all the devotees, and to honor and respect that principle in how we deal with each other. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Out of respect for your home, we're not going to have kirtan because the neighbors may...
No, we told them.
You already told them? Did you tell the police?
Well, they didn't show up yet, Maharaj, so we can continue. We told them and they're perfectly okay, Maharaj. Yes, we will. Anybody wouldn't want to have to? Haribol!
We'll have a short kirtan. Huh? Please dance. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschate Shatarine. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As you're chanting, please raise your arms very high and cry out the names of Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan, seeking shelter from your heart. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Maharaj, thank you so much for coming and gracing us this evening with such ecstatic talk and kirtan. And we are indebted from the bottom of our heart. And thank you. Hare Krishna. Haribo! His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj ki.
You are all amazing. Thank you. Would anyone like to ask any question? Since we have this wireless microphone, we should not underestimate its value.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'm your biggest fan. That's what I want to believe. I've been listening to you for 2 years now, every day. I stumbled upon your YouTube video, and that's how I came to ISKCON. You are the reason I chant and read, and I try to associate more and more with devotees.
Sounds like a stumble.
It was.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Each of your lecture is very instructive. But what is that one thing I can do if I want to go back to Godhead?
Love Krishna. That's the only thing. But how to love Krishna? To associate with the Lord's devotees and to take shelter of Krishna by chanting his holy names, by hearing about him, and by striving to really live with the character that the great souls exemplify. Somebody asked Lord Chaitanya, what is the one thing I can do to... He gave two things. Always chant the holy names and do not criticize others. And he said, if you do that carefully, I will take you back to God.
Very good.
But to do that, we have to follow regulative principles to do that appropriately. And yes. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol Prabhu.
Please accept my humble obeisances, all Krishna Prabhupada. I had a question. We were talking about Lord Balaram today. And
Take your mask off and then we can hear you so without filtration.
My question was, we talked about Lord Balaram, and Balaram is the epitome of the mood of service. He always wants to serve. So how do we develop that mood so that we can serve other devotees and the Lord properly?
Srila Prabhupada described that the goal and the means to achieve the goal are the same. We can actually approach the goal of pure devotional service by serving and cultivating pure devotional service. In whatever situation we're in right now, we make pleasing Krishna through our service our goal. And then we apply Krishna's teachings in such a way that we move toward that goal in every situation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for giving
If
the
I can go back to your question, I'll give you an answer Srila Prabhupada gave. What is the one thing we can do? Practice Krishna consciousness sincerely. That was really the one instruction that he emphasized. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the opportunity to ask questions, Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is about intentions. And sometimes when we try to do things in the good intention or best of intentions, it may be misunderstood or even criticized by others. Whether we do something or don't do something, with the best of intentions, the act of our doing or not doing is misunderstood or criticized by others. Even in Ramayana, we see Lakshman facing the wrath of both Mata Sita and Lord Ram when Marichi called. So how do we face this, Maharaj, when our intentions, even though we act with a good intention, it's misunderstood or criticized? Any advice you give, Maharaj?
Honor, dishonor, praise, blame are inevitable in this world. We are not attached or detached. We're not attached or repulsed by either one. Our aim is to please Krishna. If we're sincerely following Krishna's teachings, as our gurus and the senior Vaishnavas are teaching us, then we tolerate everything and we carry on with enthusiasm. Can you think of any devotee, even the greatest avatars, who were not criticized? Prahlad Maharaj was criticized. Narada Muni was cursed quite aggressively. Shishupal was finding faults in Krishna. Ravana could only find faults in Ram. Srila Prabhupada was accused of ruining the lives and brainwashing people. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, people actually paid dacoits to kill him. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, some of the Brahmins in Navadvip were actually going to beat him, and they were blaspheming him. So many people could have dacoits attacked Nityananda to kill him. Can you think of anyone? Narottam Das Thakur. So many people were blaspheming and criticizing him. We just have to make sure that we really are speaking, living in harmony with what will please our Guru and Krishna. If that is our intention, and we are sincerely, earnestly trying to harmonize our words and actions with that intention, then let the world say what they say. Just 2 days ago I listened to a lecture of Srila Prabhupada. He was talking, Haridas Thakur was beaten in 22 marketplaces with the intention to kill him. And yet he never found faults. He was just praising the Lord, chanting Krishna's names, begging and praying for others to take Krishna's mercy. And then Srila Prabhupada said, in Jesus Christ, he said, Lord Jesus Christ, what was his fault? He said that 3 times. What was his fault? And yet they tried to kill him. Prabhupada said, a devotee understands that that practicing Krishna consciousness doesn't mean everyone's going to like you. Because in this world, if you're not a devotee, people are not going to like you. And if you are a devotee, people are going to not like you. The question is, does Krishna like you? Krishna loves us, but does he like what we're doing? Does he like our intentions, words, and actions? Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado, and that's why Krishna gives us this system of Guru Parampara, so that it's not just a theoretical speculation what pleases Krishna. It's very clear what pleases Krishna. To study Srila Prabhupada's books or Vaishnava literatures, we not only understand from Krishna what pleases him, but we understand from those who love him, by their words and example, what pleases him. So if we're sincere and honest, if we're confused of what we should do, we ask. We ask someone who's connected. We have had experiences in life when it sees everything in the world is against us. And close our eyes and touch one of Prabhupada's books that's on the shelf. We don't know which one it's going to be. We open it and we touch a line, and yes, now I know what to do. To take shelter. And if people are criticizing us or misunderstanding us, that's part of the purification of bhakti. When Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, what was the verse that he recited and established as the principle of renunciation? It was the prayers of the Avanti Brahmin. And everyone was criticizing him. But he took shelter of the Paramatma and surrendered. Does that answer your question? Yes, Prabhu.
Haribol. Haribol Maharaj. Thank you very much for continuing the pastimes of Lord Balaram. Maharaj, one word that many times gets repeated in our conversation, and now also you repeated that word a couple of times. And many times devotees have asked this question to me, what this word means. And of course I have given answer to my understanding, but in my heart I'm not clear what exactly this means. So what is the meaning of sincerity, and how do we know whether what we are doing is out of sincerity?
You're asking that question, is sincerity. There are various ways of approaching. It's a state of consciousness where Srila Prabhupada explains without duplicity. Without duplicity. We're earnestly, honestly trying our very best to please Guru and Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj. Thank you for all wonderful katha today. I wanted to ask, sometimes when we are not at the best version of ourselves, we act in a way which, bad behavior towards others, and we hurt others. While we apologize to make amends for that, but the bad behavior keeps haunting us because we are not we felt like we didn't meet our expectations, and it puts our energy level down, and we are not able to focus well on devotional service. So how do we make peace with our bad behavior that we have done in the past?
Sincerity. Does that answer your question? Anymore. But we have to be learning our lessons in life. That is part of sincerity. Without duplicity indicates we're not trying to present ourselves as great to inflate our ego before others. But our standard of life is actually how I can best please Guru and Krishna. Through our character, our choices, our sadhana, our service. And we do have shortcomings. We've been in this world for a long time with many conditionings. We don't justify our shortcomings. Or let us say we do not justify our wrongdoings on the basis of being conditioned souls. Because if we do that, then we can't really progress. Human life is meant for tapasya, to really be striving for a higher state of Krishna consciousness. At the same time, we can't be overly depressed or critical of ourselves. We have to be forgiving of ourselves while we're honestly and earnestly or sincerely trying to purify ourselves and improve. The world programs some people to just ignore their shortcomings so that they can think that they're great and trick other people to think that we're great. And for other people, our shortcomings really makes us very almost depressed and hopeless. That look what I've done and look at all my mistakes. And both states are impediments. To accept what's favorable for devotional service and reject what's unfavorable. We have to be humble. Humble means we don't really feel we're worth trying to impress others. We're just trying to serve the best we can. We're not trying to hide from our own shortcomings just to make ourselves feel like we're great and important. We're happy to accept that we're fallen souls. And we're striving with all of our strength, with all of our prayers, to live by the standards that we've been given. And where there's shortcomings and where there's been mistakes, we're willing able to forgive ourselves knowing that we really are striving with the right character. We don't want to ignore our shortcomings to feed our ego, and we don't want to be defeated by our shortcomings. As Her Grace Jagarini Devi spoke yesterday, we should be happy practicing Krishna consciousness, even with all our shortcomings. If we're really trying to practice Krishna consciousness and applying these principles in our life, we should be happy doing that. But if we're arrogant, we're not going to be happy. And if we're depressed, we're not going to be happy. But if we're sincere, we can be happy. And even if we're not happy, if we're Krishna conscious, we can be happy. In other words, even in our unhappiness, if we're striving to please Krishna, and we understand that Guru and Krishna are pleased with us, we could be happy with that. Some of the happiest people I've ever seen in my life are on their deathbeds. Devotees. I remember my beloved God brother Sridhar Maharaj. He was in so much, physical pain and everything. And I remember I was sitting at his bedside and he just smiled and he said, "Pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice." That's quite deep realization. Is there one more question?
Turned on. I just want to say, Maharaj, thank you so much for the past 2 days of such enriching and overflow of mercy, compassion. Thank you so much for being such an example of purity, compassion, surrender to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for this wonderful family that we have here. Thank you so much, Maharaj. We love you so, so, so very much.
Thank you. No, that was the end. When somebody says like that, she has humbled me to such an extent that I'm speechless. Thank you. Hari Hari.